Thank you, Julian. And I'm glad to be here. And I would have liked to be in Athens, but I had to stay at home. So my talk I will talk about the transformation. And I can't give the answer if we are stuck in the transformative agreements, but it looks like that. So open access is a part of the open science movement, and open science is influenced by a lot of different organizations and things. So by first, we have the politics. Open access and open science is really driven by EU and other political parts. We have the society that wants open science, that needs open science. It is dependent on different ethics and laws. We have the research infrastructures that provide the possibilities to handle open science, different research organizations with different policies. We have the funders that mandate open science in many ways. We have the publishers that build a lot of systems and gain a lot of money on building systems and maybe lock us in systems. And then we have the researchers. And the researchers is the most important part here. We often talk about the top down from the politics, but we really must talk about the bottom up from the researchers. This is a movement built for the researchers and should be handled also by the researchers, not just a burden from top down. So the transformation, we call it a transformation from a closed system to an open system. And I think we're some way in the middle of transformation. And here we have again, UNESCO have new policies on open science, EU, and in Sweden, the Swedish government follows the EU with a lot of policies on open science and open access. But many organizations have also thought about open access, of course. This is EUA on their agenda for 2025. They want to have a system with academic ownership of scholarly communication and publishing and a just scholarly publishing ecosystem. And here we have 800 universities in Europe together working for this. We have theire, also a very important university organization. And the theire roadmap towards open access represents a conscious decision by theire to investigate new models for scholarly communication and the dissemination of research outputs emanating from theire universities. Although the idea of open access has been around for more than a decade now, the pathway to open access is not necessarily straightforward. There are benefits and costs. Many stakeholders will be involved. And then we have the organization Open Access 2020, which have a mission. We collaborate to transform the current publishing system, replacing the subscription business model with new models to ensure outputs are open and reusable, and that the costs behind their dissemination are transparent and economically suitable. And then we have, of course, Plan S. If you talk about the researchers, many researchers really reacted when Plan S came, when the funders and EU tried to steer where the researchers can publish. But this is an important organization that has said that we should stop hybrid publishing after 2024. And they have an RSS strategy, how to keep your copyright with the researchers and many things. But Coalition S is funded until 2024, and then they will say, we don't want the hybrid system anymore. Then we have a lot of different initiatives that we will hear more about today, about Diamond Open Access and other things. So it is really a scattered landscape, and we are not moving in the same direction. And I think that is a problem that just plays in the commercial publishers in their hands. because they can continue as long as we are not aligned. So in Sweden, we had the research bill 2021, and they said that we should have immediate open access from 2021 for articles. And I think we have reached about 75-80% in Sweden. And then it is an assignment to the National Library to follow this and help steering towards open access. And it's also in the bill that the higher education institutes and the founders must work on this with clear incentives that promote open science. And the government director to the universities and the colleges should continue to develop work with open science in order for the activities to contribute to achieving the national direction for an open science system. So this is things top down from the politicians and assignments to different players, stakeholders in Sweden. So the most important stakeholders here are the universities and the Rectors Conference, the SUHF. And within the Rectors Conference, we have a library directory forum, and we have an open science group that is steering everything that is happening at the universities with open science. And one important thing to make open science happen is that it is on the tables of the university management. So at the Rectors Conference, we have had strategic discussions about scholarly communications now for several years, and that has been very important. Some of the rectors have been involved directly in the negotiations with the publishers. Then we have the BIBSAM consortia that is administrated by the National Library, but it's governed by a steering committee from the Rectors Conference, and it's chaired by a university president. So to work towards open access through transformative agreements have been BIBSAM's strategic way forward now. So here is the landscape in Sweden when it is about open science. So the government office have been given assignments to the Swedish Research Council on open access to data, open research data, and to the National Library for open access to scholarly publications. And then we have a lot of joint action committees with the research founders, and of course the universities. We have coordination with EU and different things, and BIBSAM has been one player then with the transformative agreements. In Sweden, we started to talk about not transformative agreements. We started to build agreements that both handle the publishing and the reading in 2014 with the scope 3 where we got involved. And then now up till 2021, in 2021, we had, I think it's about 25 different transformative agreements and agreements with pure open access publishers. And new agreements for 2022 is with Springer Nature with the pure nature titles. And that was very much discussed within the Rectors Conference because it's really, really expensive to have this agreement with the nature titles, but in the same time, those should be open access as well. And then we have it ACM Plus and MDPI. So now we think for 2022, we will reach about 90% open access through our transformative agreements. So Sweden takes part of the growth of open access, but still, this is not much. If we look what's happening with the commercial publishers, they still publish more behind paywalls than in open access. It's mostly driven by Northern Europe that have the transformative agreements, but more and more are negotiating transformative agreements. But we think this will take a really long time with this route through the transformative agreements. Sweden is one of the forerunner on transformative agreements, and in the ESAC registry, we can see that Sweden have the most outputs. But if you look at this diagram, it's many countries that just have started to sign transformative agreements. And I think this is really a problem. When Sweden started to think about what is the transformation and when will the transformation happen, many countries are starting to discuss transformative agreements. And they will have all the problems that we have had with the publishers. And so the transformation will take a long, long time, I think. And this is an example of a transformative agreement, the cost of the transformative agreement with Elsevier. And as you see with the blue line, it is steadily risen, the cost of everything. In 2018, we canceled with Elsevier in Sweden because we couldn't reach an agreement where we could reach 100% open access within cost limits that were okay for us. Then we signed a new read and publish deal in 2020. And if you see the blue line, had we stayed with the pure reading agreement, it had been more expensive than the read and publish agreement. So here we get 100% open access to a lower cost if we just had the reading agreement. But something is rather astonishing is we have counted on it. If we should have paid all the APCs within this agreement, the cost should have been around nearly 23 million euros. So this is an example. What are we paying for? Do you think that Elsevier is giving away 6 million euros to us within the agreement? So the APCs are not transparent, and there are big problems with the costs of the APCs. So in discussion, as we are a forerunner in Sweden, we started to discuss what happens beyond the transformative agreements. In 2024, Plan S say we shouldn't accept hybrid publishing anymore. So we started a group within the Rectors Conference that had the aim to work out a strategy for the consortia when negotiating new agreements after 2024. The strategy will be mandated from the management of the universities. The group will also investigate alternative publishing routes and give some suggestions on such. And we will work from March 21 to December 23. And the membership in the group is from university managers, researchers from different disciplines. So we have 5 different researchers in that group, and we have the founders and the negotiators. So all the stakeholders are within the group and trying to get the strategy to reach beyond the transformation. And during 2021, we had a lot of different meetings to understand and explore to reach consensus of scope. And as you understand, when we have different disciplines who are working with scholarly communication in different manners, it has been really interesting discussions within the group. And one of the first things we were looking at was the alternative publishing routes on open platforms and open infrastructure. We had a meeting we choose 3 publishers, which we called playing chess with the publishers, negotiating position on an oligopoly market. And it was Elsevier as one of the biggest player. It was Cambridge University Press as a publishers that is trying to make a transformation and become fully open, and we had a fully open access publisher with Frontiers. And we had really interesting discussions with those three publishers, and they were all from the management level. So, but what you can see when we have the discussions, nobody wants to change it. We are not in a transition. We are in a new business model with the transformative agreements. Also, the pure open access publishers built everything on APCs and how many APCs we have to pay. So it's interesting discussion, but we see more clear that the publishers don't want a transformation. Then we need to discuss this internationally as well. So we had a meeting with other countries that had reached far with transformative agreements like Germany, Norway, and the Netherlands. And then we were looking at the different policies, and the policies in Sweden and the policies of internationally are not harmonized, and it isn't a sustainable financing for the future either. So in our discussions in the beginning, we talked about the biggest challenges, and it's of course a cultural change at the universities. It is the cost distribution and how to prevent the big price increases. And who shall own the publishing infrastructure for the future? As EUA say, the academia should take it back. And then the biggest challenge is the merit and award system. And I think it's really good that you took it now in France when you had the presidency of EU to continue to discuss how we can change the merit and the award system. And short and long time solutions for us is to redirect the payments in a short time between the funders and the universities. Of course, the researchers shouldn't pay for the transformative agreements, change the award and merit system, and change the publishing infrastructure. And actors and responsibilities, the university, they should work on changing the award and merit system, build infrastructure for scholarly communication, debate, change the funding streams and everything. The funders should change the award and merit system, follow up their policies and change the funding streams. And researchers have to take informed decisions, and the National Library can compile, analyze, and following up. So will there be any transformation? I think that very few publishers want to change their business model. They think that the transformative agreement is the new business model. When I talked with Elsevier recently, they said that they have now around 20% open access, 80% behind the paywall, and they think it will take decades before they reach pure open access. And many publishers start new journals behind the paywall. It's more journals, new journals behind the paywall than are still open. And the business model we have within the transformative agreements are from the beginning built on print spend and APC spend. So it's not transparent what we are paying for. And as the reading prices goes down, the APC prices increases without any explanation. So there is no transparency about what we are paying for. And I don't think that the APC model is sustainable for the future. We should have something where we pay for publishing as a service, publishing and peer review and everything as a service. Then it is, as we have many, many different policies, as I talked about, EU, theire, and all different policies, it's just playing the commercial publishers in their hand that we aren't aligned to drive the transformation. So how can we get the transformation? I think it is really important, like this today, to have international discussions and cooperation. investigate and build alternative publishing routes. Of course, we must have alternatives to the commercial publishers. We can work on RRS strategies. More and more universities are now having policies on RRS. I think Cambridge University was the last one that came out and said we will have an RRS policy for our publishing. We must put pressure on the publishers to be transparent about their cost models. And we have to be ready to walk away from the negotiation table. And if we don't act, there will be no transformation. It is in the hand to work together to get the transformation. And we really have to work together with different alternatives, different publishing routes, and try to push the publishers to go away from the transformative agreements. And our biggest threat to the publishers is cancellations. We tried it in Sweden and it was really effective to cancel with Elsevier for 1.5 years. And we survived, and the researchers didn't complain. They understand why we canceled. I have written a piece about this at UKSG. Will there be any transformation, on are we stuck with the transformative agreements that you can read if you're interested? But if we don't handle, there will be no transformation. Thank you.